talking about strong emotions today. And I think that is a perfect subject for today because we have so many emotions that are associated with grief. And sometimes it feels like it feels hard to even be able to describe how you're feeling because sometimes there are so many. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. Great. Uh, I I heard so many different emotions that people shared, and some of them, an emotion can be really strong and it can also be not that strong. So I know often anger is an emotion that many of us have associated with grief, and I think in particular uh, in the situation that all of you are in, particularly it's such um, it's so different from what others are experiencing, and it is so unique to this time. So I think anger is, you know, it is always a part where people really struggle. And I always say to people, it's really okay to feel your emotions. And especially when we're talking about anger, it's really okay to feel them. And as long as you're not hurting yourself or someone else, it's okay to feel those strong emotions. When I was first widowed, I couldn't stand anybody who wasn't widowed, really. Even my closest friends, I felt like they all had what I didn't have. And I felt like no one understood. So for me, the power of community, the power of this community of Soaring Spirits, and the power of this particular group, I think is so important because you can kind of let down your guard. And that is, that's a great example of feeling your feelings and being able to express them. So, anxiety, sadness, emptiness, I mean, there were so many emotions talked about. So, what I want to talk about a little bit is about how those emotions affect us in so many different ways, and how kind of working through them or feeling them, even just feeling them, helps us to cope and helps us to be able to, to tolerate being, continuing. And so I wanted that we have something that maybe hasn't been shared with you, but it's a handout called Common Grief Reactions in Adults. And it talks about physical, emotional, behavioral, mental, spiritual, and social emotions. So I think that Mary will share that with you after this group. But physical things that can come that are associated with our emotions. And I'm guessing that many of you will have felt many of these. I know I did. Upset stomach, pain, exhaustion, sleep changes, appetite changes, dry mouth, muscle tension, lowered immunity, low energy, shortness of breath, heaviness in chest, tightness in throat, agitation, sensitivity to light, to sounds. So those are all really, really natural physical things that can come. And often I know, especially in your situation, some of those things are heightened because of the way your person died. And so there's just so many ways that you need to be tender and gentle with yourself. And I know Michelle talked last time about self-care, and I know that can be really hard, but sometimes self-care is just saying to yourself, I'm doing the best I can. It can be such a simple thing to just begin to be gentle with yourself. And the emotional things that are listed on this are shock, numbness, sadness, sorrow, guilt, regret, anger, and even rage, emptiness, relief, irritability, restlessness, listlessness, insecurity, betrayal, resentment, desire to join loved one, feeling helpless, and feeling out of control. So, there are just so many things that are associated with our emotions. Of course, I'm going to start coughing. Excuse me. And then behavioral: crying, sobbing, wailing, difficulty crying, sitting quietly, staying too busy to really feel your emotions. So there are all kinds of things that we do to either express our emotions or stop them. And so again, be gentle with yourself around that, but pay attention to the things you do when you're feeling a strong emotion, because sometimes just that acknowledgement will help you to move through it. And then mental denial, disbelief, forgetfulness, confusion, needing to retell the story of the death. And I think that, those things are just part of what we need to do in our mind to kind of make things real. And spiritually, many people feel alone. They question whatever spirituality or religion they may have. They just feel spiritually many different things. Often we feel the presence of our person. We may even hear their voice or smell, have something that associates. We may see somebody walking down the street and think that's our person. All those kinds of things are reactions kind of to the emotions that we're feeling and reactions to what's going on. So, and then, in terms of socially, I know that you guys have been, not able to be out in public much, but as things are coming, back again, and I was thinking of the person who just was able to do a memorial, all of a sudden you have to deal with the people in a real way. I mean, it's not just on the phone. You have to actually be there. And so, I just suggest that you're just pay attention to that and know that this time of transition is also really challenging, because you're kind of forced to react in a more direct way. And so don't be surprised if those emotions come out more, and that you have, that you feel maybe angry, or maybe like you don't want to see people, or maybe like you want to, you just want to be by yourself. Whatever you're feeling, I want you to honor it and just know that you are doing the very best you can. And that is enough. And I also want to remind you that this community will support you. And even within this group, there are people who have been widowed a longer time. I heard Tara say, I'm glad you're here. So what happens that is so beautiful is that we reach a hand back. And sometimes it's even early on that we reach a hand back. I know when I was in that first year, a couple of years of being widowed, when I was able to do that and kind of know I was doing it, it felt like it was something I could do, because I felt so helpless often. And like, I had nothing to give. But just know that giving of yourselves just by being here is something that you can do. So again, give yourself credit. Give yourself credit for everything that you do to, keep going. And if you can encourage somebody else to keep going, that's a big deal. So, so honoring your emotions is really, really important. And knowing when you have a really strong emotion that it's not going to last forever. That doesn't mean that it won't come back. But those, if you watch the video of Alyssa talking about oceans of emotions, she talked about how most emotions really only last 60 to 90 seconds, which is always amazes me. That doesn't mean that they don't come back again, but kind of that, like when you're feeling something really strong, that it will, it will build, it will crest, and then it will recede. And so what we want to do is find ways to support that feeling of the emotion, and then also allowing it to kind of recede again. So I'm going to keep talking about self-care because it's so important. And I know Michelle talked last time, for those of you who were here, that self-care doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be lighting a candle. It can be taking a nap. It can be just going outside and breathing, or listening if you live somewhere where there are birds, just listening. Sometimes just kind of standing with your arms out can feel invigorating. So very simple things. I talk about yoga, and sometimes people think, oh, that's just way too much. But if you can just do child's pose, where, you're just kind of on the floor in child's pose, which is I think a comforting pose, and just do that. Sometimes they talk about just simple stretches when you're still in bed. So any little thing you can do, if you can kind of start paying attention to that, give yourself credit. I like to write those things down for myself. I'm a journaler, as Mary knows, and I'm all about a daily practice. And that's not to say you need to start some big daily practice, but a practice can be stretching, or lighting a candle, or there are just a million things that you can do. So talking about strong emotions, I think about anger as one of them, or there are a lot of things kind of associated with anger that you might not call out as anger, but I heard lots of things that people said that felt strong. So for me, something where you can kind of push that out, like have some kind of movement for that, I think is good. When I was first widowed, and I tell this story, my friend brought me a whole box of garage sale dishes, and she set up like a target in my basement, and she said, just break them and I'll clean it up. And I cannot tell you what that did for me. And it might not be a possible thing for most people to do, but that was the biggest gift she could have given me. I mean, it felt so great. So I try to think about things that feel like that. They have those dolls that you can smash against the wall and they sound like breaking glass. There are things, I think, things like kickboxing, or just hitting a tennis ball against the wall. Those kinds of things can be really helpful, because they're just kind of, they're strong and forceful, and it feels good to be able to do things like that. At least for me, it did. Punching bag. When I was first widowed, somebody said I should get one for my son who was really struggling. And I did, and it's great for him, but I used it more than he did. It felt so good to use that punching bag. It was really great. I had that punching bag because I think of it fondly at this point. And it was, that was a really big help to me. So think about what are some of the things that feel good. Screaming in the car. I don't know if anyone screams in the car, but screaming or yelling, just getting the emotion out can be really helpful. And I think Blues Brothers has that section. I mean, I'm dating myself, but that section where the woman goes in the tunnel and just screams at the top of her lungs, that feels good. And again, when the emotions are just sitting inside of us, they hurt more. They kind of have no place to go. So often they go to physical things, a headache, or, you don't feel well. So if we can move them through, that is helpful. Yeah, I see someone saying that she plays music really loud. And I know there are some people who can't listen to music, but yes, really loud music and allowing yourself to do whatever you do, sometimes, dancing to music, there are so many things. And And that's what you want, is you want to be able to, among yourselves, share those ideas, because everyone has them. And then I want you to really, again, give yourself credit for the things that you do that help. Even if you feel like nothing is helping, you know, you're feeling helpless, or you're feeling like, you just can't do this anymore. You are doing things that are helping. And surviving is a really, really challenging thing to do when your person is not here. It's so hard, and it's so much work. So again, give yourself credit for all the things you're doing, because the feeling of the emotions and processing your emotions will help you move through that dark, I kind of think of it as this dark tunnel into some light. That's right. You might not even realize that there are some things that you are doing that are helping you. Um, and and crying, expressing emotion. If you're feeling like you need a good cry, and because sometimes it gets blocked, and that's where sad movies come in, sometimes sad songs. There are a lot of things that we can do to help us cry, and tears, tears are amazing. I noticed also that uh, Alyssa was talking about one of the ways that she realized that she was moving through her grief was when she realized that she could have a tear and a smile at the same time. And that may be a long way off for some of you, but you will pay attention to that and you will notice it when it happens. I mean, I will never forget the first moment that I felt joy again. After my husband died, I mean, I was so shocked by the feeling of joy. And so and I will never forget it. So I want you to just really be so gentle with yourself, and really just know that the way you're each of you walking through this impossible thing. And you may not believe that you're going to be able to keep walking through. So, it's so hard to trust that in the beginning. And so I always ask the people that I love who are going through difficult things to, even if they don't believe that, I will hold that trust for them. I will believe it for you, because the resilience of widowed people is unbelievable, and it never ceases to amaze me that we are able to survive an impossible thing, and not just survive, but live again, which is, seems unheard of in those early days. So I just want to remind you to be good to yourself and give yourself credit. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's really so important. Some other things that can be really helpful in grief are, any kind of meditation or visualization. As I said, yoga, and I don't know if any of you are doing those kinds of things. I thought that we might do a tapping, do a little tapping today, because for me, I mean, people make fun of me because I'm a tapper, and emotional freedom technique. I don't know how many of you have heard of it, or maybe some of you have done some of it, but it is such a simple way to just kind of feel your emotions and then kind of bring them down to a kind of a tolerable level. And so I'm going to show you how that works today. And in fact, maybe we should do that now. Mary will be my assistant. And by the way, be really nice to Mary, because she broke her foot a few days ago, and yet here she is with us, which I really appreciate. So I'm just going to read this thing about what tapping is. It's called Emotional Freedom Technique, EFT, and it's a set of techniques which utilize the body's energy meridian points. And we can stimulate these meridian points by tapping on them with our fingertips, literally tapping into your body's own energy and healing power. Difficult emotions are felt through a disruption of the body's energy. Tapping helps restore the body's energy balance. The basic technique has you focus on the challenging emotion, and then what happens is in the beginning, we kind of talk about the challenging emotion and tap along with that. And then kind of as we move through the tapping, we're able to, it's not like we kind of honor the emotion and then we move through it to a place of hope or possibility, I guess. So we'll do that. And if you want to do it with us, that's great. If you just want to watch, that's great too. We're going to share some things later where you can look at it if you feel like looking at it. There are lots of people using tapping in the world. My favorite moment was when I saw 2 swimming athletes at the Olympics who were tapping right before they got in the water. It was very cool. And I think most people didn't even notice that they were, but I saw that they were tapping and I was really impressed. So I am going to show you first the meridian points where we tap. And Mary, are we going to split our screen? How do you want to do that?
Yep, it's already done.
Oh, great. So everybody can see both of us?
Yep.
Okay. All right, great. So the first point is called the karate chop point. And it's just on the side of the hand, just like that. And then the second point, let's see, is the top of the head. And some people use both hands, some people just use one. You can do either way. And then the next, I'm going to take off my glasses and hope I can still read. The next is the eyebrow. And then side of the eye. Okay, and then under the eye. And then under the nose. And then the chin. And then the collarbone. And then under the arm. And I always just do one under the arm. So those are the tapping points. It's amazing. And, you don't have to believe me, but it's amazing how much of a difference it can make just in terms of kind of turning the intensity of the emotion down. And I use it all the time. It takes only a few minutes. I know Mary's uses it too in her life. What's great about the things that we learn during grief and the things that we use as kind of our part of our bag of tricks, often we continue and are able to use them throughout life. And so that's a good thing. So if you're ready, I am going to do a tapping meditation about releasing anxiety. And so this tapping meditation is provided to help you with your feelings of anxiety around your grief. It's always good to tap while using your own language. So when you're tapping on your own, you can say whatever makes sense. And as you hear me saying something, if that doesn't resonate with you, say something different in your head. It's okay to kind of change it to work for you. We're going to start by giving a voice to how you might be feeling. So focus on any feelings that are coming up when you think about your grief. So any of those emotions that you express, just kind of think about what you might be feeling. And then I want you to give it a number between 1 and 10, kind of how intense they are. And just kind of pay attention or just make a note of that in your head. And now we're going to take a few deep breaths just to begin so that we can feel grounded and centered in our bodies. So we're going to inhale through our nose and out through our mouth. And 2 more times. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Then I want you to start by tapping on the karate chop point on the side of your hand as you repeat after me, either in your head or out loud. It's not going to be recorded. Even though I feel all of this stress and anxiety,
even
And,
though I
Mary,
feel all of this
Mary's going to
stress
repeat,
and anxiety.
I accept myself and how I feel,
I accept myself and how I feel,
even though I feel all of this stress,
even though I feel all of this stress.
all of this anxiety,
Can't hear you, Kath.
all of this anxiety.
And all of this anxiety.
I accept myself and how I feel.
I accept myself and how I feel.
Eyebrow. All of this stress,
All of this stress,
side of the eye, all of this anxiety,
all of this anxiety,
under the eye, all of this grief,
all of this grief.
under the nose. I just want to feel better.
I just want to feel better.
And I'm afraid of what might happen.
I'm afraid of what might happen.
Collarbone. I'm scared that I can't do this.
I'm scared that I can't do this.
Under the arm. What if I make a mistake?
What if I make a mistake?
Top of the head. All of these doubts that cloud my mind.
All of these doubts that cloud my mind.
The bad scenario I play in my mind.
The bad scenario I play in my mind.
Side of the eye. This fear that something else might happen.
The fear that something else might happen.
The eye. I just want to somehow get through this.
I just want to somehow get through this.
Under the nose. I want to control it all.
I want to control it all.
But I cannot control it.
But I cannot do it.
Collarbone. So I worry instead.
So I worry instead.
Under the arm. I have to worry because I care.
I have to worry because I care.
Top of the head. I'm just so anxious.
I'm just so anxious.
Eyebrow. It's okay to feel this grief.
It's okay to feel this grief.
Side of the eye. And begin to let go of some of the worry.
And begin to let go of some of the worry.
Under the eye. It's safe for me to relax around it.
It's safe for me to relax around it.
Under the nose. It's safe for me to feel a little bit better.
It's safe for me to feel a little bit better.
I trust that someday I will be okay.
I trust that someday I will be okay.
I'm going to take it one day at a time.
I'm going to take it one day at a time.
1 hour or 1 minute at a time.
Or 1 hour or 1 minute at a time.
Under the arm. I'm beginning to feel a little more centered and strong.
I'm beginning to feel a little more centered and strong.
Top of the head. I have everything I need within me.
I have everything I need within me.
Eyebrow.
Can't hear you, Kath.
Eyebrow. So that I can feel calm and relaxed.
So that I can feel calm and relaxed.
Side of the eye. I can handle what comes.
I can handle what comes.
I'm resilient.
I can hear you.
Under the I. I am resilient.
I am resilient.
Under the nose. I can feel better.
I can feel better.
I can release some of this anxiety.
I can release some of this anxiety.
Collarbone. I can relax around my grief.
I can relax around my grief.
Under the arm. I can trust myself.
I can trust myself.
Top of the head. I can trust my ability.
I can trust my ability.
Eyebrow. No matter what is happening.
No matter what is happening.
Side of the eye. I'm enough. Side of the eye. I am enough.
I am enough.
Under the eye. I am resilient.
I am resilient.
Under the nose. I am confident.
I am confident.
I can speak my truth.
I can speak my truth.
Collarbone. I am capable.
I am capable.
Under the arm. I have what I need.
I have what I need.
Top of the head. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, top of the head. I am not alone.
I am not alone.
Take another deep breath and place both hands on your heart, if you can do that. And I want you to say just a little message to yourself of encouragement, whatever sounds right to you. Just give yourself a little message. What do you need to say or remember to help move yourself through your grief? Sometimes I just say to myself, I'm the best Kath McCormack I can be. You know, whatever comforting little message you can give to yourself. And when you're ready, maybe some of you have your eyes closed, I don't know, but when you're ready, just take a minute to see, to again kind of feel the intensity level of your emotions and see if they're still as high as they were in the beginning, or if maybe they've gotten a little bit better, a little bit lower. And if you're tapping on your own, you know, if the intensity level's still really high, then you can just tap again. And so that's just a little example of one method of kind of moving through feelings. And the words that I said might not have resonated at all with you, so take what resonated and leave the rest. What I love about tapping, I love a bunch of things, but I love that you can do it anywhere. I have trouble flying, and so I do it a lot of times before I get on the plane. And a lot of times people just don't even know I'm doing it, which I love that. And so it's a really simple thing. The other thing I love is that there's a tapping app now that I use not every day, but I use it often. And when I remember, I'm struggling with something or I'm feeling, anxiety, worry is one of my things. People say I run a little anxious, which I do run a little anxious, and I feel I come by it honestly. So anyway, when I think about it and I listen, in the tapping app, there are several different people, and I really love Jessica's voice because it's comforting, I think. But it's a very it's an easy thing to do, and they have tapping for all kinds of things. So you can, they have a depression tapping series, they have tapping for anxiety, they have tapping for fear. I mean, they have a bunch of different tapping kind of meditations that can take you through. And sometimes I just tap without saying anything, which is a really simple thing. Once you learn kind of the different tapping spots, you can just tap. And even that, I mean, it works to relax the amygdala, right? To calm things down in the body. Mary's a nurse, and she knows a lot about kind of how all of that works. I just more trust that it works because I've seen it work for me, and I've seen it work with a bunch of people that I work with. So anyway, it's just something you might want to try. And we'll hand out some stuff if you have any interest in looking further. How's our time, Mary? Are we doing okay?
Yep, we're about ready to move on to the discussion.
Time to move
portion.
on. Okay, that's great. So why don't we finish? What I really want you to get from today is that it's okay to feel your emotions. Sometimes they're really strong, and yet you have the ability to feel them and move through them. And just make sure you kind of collect your bag of tricks. And, if it's breathing, take that as one trick. If it's just closing your eyes and being quiet, if it's listening to loud music, whatever it is, kind of gather that bag of tricks and remember to use them when you can. Thanks so much.
Thank you.